Meet FPX Zhao AP 3506303. Yes, all of those numbers are in his name, we're just gonna call him Zhao from now on. He's a Challenger Talon main on the Korean server who has reached top 10 Challenger in Season 10. Right now he is rank 15, which is still insanely high for a one-trick, especially a one-trick that plays a champion like Talon, that relies on a heavy roaming style of play. Talon is a solo queue monster of a champion, and this guy has made it work even against pro players. I'm gonna show you how he does it. Quickly before we start, if you like these kinds of videos, make sure to subscribe. I have loads of videos about special strategies that players have used to get Challenger, and plan to make many more. Anyway, back to Talon. Talon mid has never been a hugely popular pick. Currently it's number 19 in mid lane popularity. However, in the past couple of seasons, Talon as a champion has heavily influenced the mid lane solo queue playstyle permanently. When Talon was reworked and given his wall jump on his E, he became the default roaming mid laner. His roams are just insanely fast and powerful, and people started to notice his power in solo queue, and brought that playstyle to other champions. Things like Pyke Mid, Fizz, and Pantheon are all played specifically for their roaming power. Just like when people play Talon, the new default mid lane style is roaming and trying to pick up kills in other lanes. In fact, FPX even won a world championship with this style, with Doinby playing specifically to avoid mid lane, and instead help out as jungler and side lanes. This playstyle has started to see some nerfs, as Riot do not love roaming mid laners, but this only brings Talon back into the spotlight, once again becoming the best roaming mid laner. Zhao is an expert at this roaming playstyle on Talon. We're going to take a look at one of his games against top esports Knight, who many are calling the best mid laner in the world right now, to see how Zhao absolutely destroys him without even laning against him. Zhao takes an early base after a big trade in mid. He immediately looks at the map and notices he has an opportunity to go top rather than mid lane. This works perfectly, as he picks up a kill and some CS, and now can return to mid to catch the wave. He does this repeatedly in this game, rarely even staying in mid lane for longer than a single wave. Zhao's top laner even disconnects in this game multiple times, but that's no problem for a Talon. He can play two lanes at the same time, and Zhao does. He's constantly moving between mid and top. By the time Knight gets a chance to 1v1 Zhao, he already has a level advantage over him, and 7 kills, so of course Knight has no chance. But surely he can't do this every game. What's his game plan, level by level? At the start of the game, he's always camping in this river bush at level 1 to guard for an invade. This is good practice for any mid lane champion, and it's your job to guard this rather than being at the tower. He just happens to do this every single game, so I thought I'd mention it. At level 1, in lane, he gets CS with his W, trying to hit the enemy at the same time. He doesn't want to push the wave too much, he's happy to pull it towards his tower, as long as he's not taking any poke damage. Versus a poke lane like a Zoe, for example, Zhao just uses his W to get CS in lane, making sure he's not taking too much damage. If he plays level 1 correctly, he will hit the wave at the same time as the champion with his W to push for level 2. In the first wave, you want to be using your W on the caster minions to push them, and then in the second wave, you want to use them on the melee minions right before you get level 2, so then you can go for an all-in. Level 2 is Talon's strongest point to go for a 1v1 mid lane. His E doesn't give any damage, so there's no point getting level 3 or level 4, because you're not getting that much extra damage. Your peak is going to be at this level 2. So take your Q, and then go for all-ins in matchups that you know you can win. Zhao pokes the enemy down with a Q or with a W to slow them, and then goes in with his Ignite, making sure he pops his passive as well for maximum damage. At level 3, you get your E. Your power is slightly decreased at this point, as the enemy should be stronger if they have 3 skills, and one of your skills is only for roaming. At this point, you're not aiming for a 1v1 kill at that time. You're just trying to make sure you get your Tiamat, and you can start looking for roams as well. Once you get your Tiamat, it should be about 5 or 6 minutes in the game, so you should also be around level 6 at that point. Zhao's goal from then on is to push the mid lane wave with his Tiamat and go for roams around the map. Especially if Zhao has a bad matchup, he'll look for roams as soon as possible. So in this game, he's against a Set, which he's going to struggle to win any 1v1s early game in mid, as Set has very strong abilities early. He can tank all the damage, return loads of damage to Talon. He just can't really win that 1v1. So instead, in this game, he goes bot lane and kills the AD carry multiple times. There's basically nothing Set can do about this. He can't follow the roams because he's way too slow. He can't push the mid tower, as again, he's too slow to be able to DPS it. He's not like a Ziggs or something who could fully clear the wave fast and then kill the tower. So Zhao makes the perfect play by leaving the lane. This game also showcased how good Zhao is at roaming, and how good he is at using his E perfectly. He has this safe roam path to get to top lane, where he jumps around through his jungle. You could do this on either side. He's trying to stay out of vision, stay away from the enemy mid laner, while also beating them to top lane. So this is a good roam path if you're trying to be safe, and the enemy has someone who can 1v1 you. There are also 2 ideal roaming paths that Zhao has. So for this one, to get to top lane, you're going round, jumping these walls. You can even dive over the wall if you want to, if you're on the this side. On the other side, you do the same, but you just go through the Baron pit instead and flank around. And then there's also this bot lane gank path where you do basically the mirror of the top lane one, going through the dragon pit down to behind the enemy laners. You could then do that again on the other side, going down through the blue buff area of the enemies and just arriving in lane through there. As I mentioned, at this power spike, he's level 6, but the bot laners are normally going to be either level 5 or level 4 sometimes even. So in some games, he'll be roaming down to a level 4 support, which he's just going to be able to one-shot, and they won't be able to do anything about it. Ideally, you don't want to roam before you have Tiamat, as you're going to be losing CS and XP mid, so it's just safer and less risky to go for them after you get the Tiamat at level 6. And speaking about that risk, Zhao also gets a sweeper as soon as he can, so that when he's roaming, he's not going to be in vision, and he can find out if he is, and then return back to mid lane, rather than wasting his time. From this point onwards, he's pretty much doing this all game. Whenever he goes back to base, he's looking at top and bot lane and his jungler to see if there's any chance of him joining and getting a kill. He can basically get anywhere on the map as fast as he wants to. He's going to be one of the fastest roamers in the game, and he rarely even needs to go back to mid lane, other than to pick up a couple of waves every now and then. If you're ahead of an AD carry, if you're level 11 and they're level 9, you don't really need more CS to be able to kill them over and over again. You can just keep going down there. Two of the most important things on Talon are knowing which walls are best to jump and also the combos. Zhao knows exactly which walls to jump to get to each lane as fast as possible, as well as each walls he can use to just jump to gain distance, and as much distance as he can, to make sure you're practicing these in practice stall before you get into games. As well as this, the combos. The best single target assassination combo is WQR auto attack. This is also the fastest combo, which means the enemy has much less time to react. At early levels, the best combo for quick trades in lane is WQ auto attack, and the best teamfight combo is WRQ auto attack, picking your target while you're invisible during the R. These combos are all built around Talon's passive, activating it quickly for maximum damage. A quick note, Zhao does duo most of his games, so that then he can always be talking to the jungler and roaming with them, but he is normally the one carrying the jungler. It's not like he's getting boosted by the jungler or anything. And in fact, his jungler Lilia could probably do with watching my video about how Jankos plays Lilia, which has all the basics you need to know and many high level points as well, so check that out too. In team fights, as with any assassin, he doesn't love actually taking them. Try and avoid the team fights and pick enemies inside lanes using Talon E to get around to catch them out of position. If you are in a fight, then try and pick out the carry and burst them as soon as possible, then use E to escape to safety. Rejoin your team to clean up the fight. In terms of what he bans every game, there isn't a champion that he specifically has, so some good counters to ban on Talon are Renekton, Diana or Aurelia, who will all be able to survive your burst combos as well as have the option to kill you in fights, but you can mostly ban on preference as he does. For his build, Zhao starts longsword refillable potion every game. This is so he can get to his Tiamat as fast as possible as the longsword builds straight into it. He then tries to get Tiamat by 5 or 6 minutes into the game so he can start pushing and roaming. His favourite boots are boots of swiftness, and he finishes these off after the Tiamat purchase. His next item will then be Duskblade, and after that Ghostblade. These should be enough for him to have enough damage to fight anyone and try to win the game at this point. If the game extends or he's not able to snowball, then he will purchase Edge of Night as his third lethality item. For his final item, Zhao gets Black Cleaver, and if the game keeps going, he'll sell the Tiamat for a Guardian Angel, as he no longer needs it to push waves. At that point, his W damage will be enough to kill waves, and he just needs an item that gives him more damage for fights. For runes, as you can imagine, he always takes Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection and Relentless Hunter. Great runes for solo queue as always, for snowballing and for movement speed, it's great on Talon. For secondaries, he takes the Sorcery Tree with Nimbus Cloak and Absolute Focus. For stats, he takes 2 Adaptive and either 1 Armor or 1 Magic Resist as the last one, depending on if he is facing an AD or an AP enemy mid laner. Right now, as I mentioned, Zhao is ranked 15 in Korean Challenger. In his last game, he played with 4 Korean pro players, and he's still winning against them. I'll link his OPGG in the description so you can follow his climb to rank 1. I imagine he's going to try and get it by the end of the season, so make sure to keep an eye on him in November when the season ends. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, like the video if you enjoyed, and thanks so much for watching.